Hello, Wisdom and Wellness family. Today I'm joined by Diana, who is the co founder of NovFeed, a groundbreaking biotech startup company that's focused on redefining fish farming. It's going to be an incredible conversation. Welcome, Diana.
Thank you so much.
So I just want to start, and this is my favorite part. I ask everyone if you could share a quote or a sentence, an African proverb, a line that you just live by.
Haraka haraka haina baraka, pole pole ndio mwendo. In whatever you do or in anything that you do or when you're walking, like anything that you're doing faster, it doesn't have a blessings like going slowly. Like
Mm.
following up the process always have more blessings.
Following the process has more
Yeah,
blessings than trying to
yeah.
just be faster and finish.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, I love that. What a great opening. And so I want to actually get into your upbringing. How was it? I think you're in Dar es Salaam.
Yes.
Yes. What was your upbringing like? And we're going to get into North Feed, but did you see signs and patterns in your life that you would be in the biotech industry? Like, what kind of a girl, woman were you growing up?
Thank you for that. I didn't see myself as one day I will be in the biotech, but I saw myself as one day I will be an entrepreneur because my
Mm,
mother is a small entrepreneur. I was born back in '96, but my
yeah.
mom started doing entrepreneurship even before I was born. So I remember after finishing standard 7 while waiting for the national result to come out for me to go and join the secondary school. My mom always has done this for three of her kids. My
Yeah.
first sister, after completing standard 7, there is this 3 month period of waiting for the result. She normally allow us to go and help her to do the business in her small shop. So he normally count as that is the time for her to take the leave. So
Mm,
we have been practicing that. It gave us an opportunity to practice how to sell, how to talk to the customers. Although I was very young by then, I was just 12 years old, but it gave me so much opportunity to learn a lot of things: how to talk to the customers, how to respond, how to sell a product, how to maybe doing even the like convincing a customer to buy something, because
yeah.
this customer has so many options. She or she can decide to leave. So it was that time that I started to love entrepreneurship. But by then I didn't really know if one day I will be, but I wish, because I saw my mom have been doing this for a very, very long time, although
Mm,
she has a very small business. But yeah, so even after finishing their secondary school, we did the same thing. Even when we go back for the holiday during the secondary school, when we go back home for the holidays, mommy allow us to stay in her small shop and help us, and we help her to deal with the customers. Yeah.
yeah. It's amazing how our upbringing and plays such an important role in who we become, and it shapes us so much. And it's always, I mean, that's how I got into entrepreneurship. The same as you, at 12 years old, I used to go work for my dad, and he had a
Okay.
chemical business. So might not be doing the
Oh,
same thing, but just that spirit of entrepreneurship, turning in an
yes.
idea into something. But so
Yeah.
your business basically focuses on turning organic waste, like your cabbages, your fruits, into fertilizer for animals, right? So can you tell us where that idea came from? Like, I know now, like in my garden, if I'm like cooking and I've got like I guess the bits, the waste from my veggies, I just throw them in my veggie garden. But you went a step ahead and turned it into a business to actually feed fish, to turn it into protein. So can you tell us how that idea came about and the process of turning it into a business?
So actually, basically, what we do is we transform this market agro waste into a valuable protein ingredient and biofertilizer. Our aim with the protein ingredient, we want to help the fish farmers
Mm,
produce sustainably and affordably. But with the fertilizer, we want to help the farmers also produce sustainably and affordably. At the same time, to help them reduce their environmental footprint. So the idea came back when I think it's kind of when I was growing up. I was living with my uncle in the early when I was still young, and my uncle was a farmer.
Mm.
So he used to farm fish, but he was this man who, by then I was saying he's a man of complaint. Like he complained all the time. Every time he harvested his fish, he would say, I don't have money. But uncle, you just harvested your fish last week. How comes today
Yeah.
you're saying you don't have money? It's only been few days. So he
Yeah.
was saying that like this business is not a business that you think is giving me a lot of money as you guys think. It's just a
Mm.
business that help to sustain us.
Yeah.
So
Put food on
by
the
then it
table.
was not making so much sense to me. But during the university life, I and a group of other students were doing the research, trying to understand the aquaculture landscape in Tanzania. But that was it was like an eye-opening opportunity. It broadened my understanding of the aquaculture, especially on the challenges that are faced by these farmers. I
Yeah.
started to relate it to the challenge that I had my uncle speaking about a decades ago. These
Mm.
farmers were struggling with measuring the water quality of their farm. They were struggling to access the good fingerlings. They are struggling to access the better quality and affordable fish feed. So
Yeah.
I started to relate, and most of them, when they were speaking, they were saying, "This is why you see we have a very big potential in this country to do the aquaculture. God bless us with the lakes, with the oceans. We have a very good land and very big land, but most people are not tapping into this opportunity." Because
Yeah.
most of the time when we invest in the aquaculture, the return on investment is almost equal to zero, and who is
Sure.
ready to trade off between investing on something that will give you a good profit or investing in something just because of oppression and it won't give you a good profit? We thought, what if we use the market agri-waste, which are available abundantly, and most of the time they end up in the dump sites and producing a lot of potent greenhouse there, polluting our environment, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, and everything. What if we add value into this? Can the microbes feed on this? That's when we started doing we say, like, let us try work on it. We worked on
Mm.
it, we developed the technology, we tested it, and it worked out. So during the process of producing this single cell protein, which is now we call it the perfect replacement of the fish meal, we were harvesting pretty large amount of water
Yeah.
that is meant to be
Sure.
discarded. But again, we think like, can we find out a way to close the loop in this production system?
Mm.
We said, like, let us look what this water has. Oh,
Yeah.
it has few microbes that are left behind after harvesting. But can we use it on the farm? We cannot use it alone because it doesn't have enough nutrient to support the growth of the plants and nourish the soil. What can
Mm.
be done? Let's improve it. We improved it, and that's how we end up with a biofertilizer branded as Ecovita that help the
Sure.
farmers cut their production cost. It nourishes the soil, nourishes the food. It helps the farmers reduce the environmental footprint, but also produce a food that is bursty for the human being consumption. At the same
Mm.
time, it's not harming our soil. Yeah,
Sure. So that's so
yeah.
interesting, and I can hear you. And my next question is, what problem were you trying to solve? Because I can hear you've already solved so many issues. One, waste. You've solved the
Yeah,
waste problem. You've solved
yeah.
a. You've also solved a resource problem, as you're saying they were struggling with the fish feed. But also, I
Yes.
guess it's an entrepreneurial problem. But what was for you as you keep running your business, what is the biggest issue that you are seeing that you are solving and making the biggest impact in with this project?
So, number one, I would say food insecurity.
Ah.
If there is no food, there is no peace in any
Yeah.
country in this world.
Sure.
Regardless of how many armies you have, you can't solve the war problem if there is no food in that country. The
Yeah.
food war is different with any type of war that you see going on in the world.
Mm.
You have to make sure that every person in under the sun have access to access to affordable and better quality food. At the
Yeah.
same time, if you want to solve the insecurity in the long in the for it's like for the long term, you have to make sure that this food is produced in a
Sustainable.
sustainable way.
And I mean, I know there's an issue, there's a problem with overfishing in a lot of places. But when I went to, in Cape Town, I visited a place called Abalobi, and they were talking about they teach farmers not to overfish. And my question was, well, how do you say to someone who's hungry, you're overfishing? You know, how do you teach
Yeah,
them? And it's a conversation
yeah.
that we went deep into and was really interesting. And so I wanted to hear your thoughts. Do you teach the farmers on fishing in a sustainable way? Because it's one thing to provide a good sustainable good fertilizer, and but it's another thing if then there's abuse of the fishing of the land. Now it's fine, but in 10 years time there won't be anything left. So are you educating? How are you going about overfishing?
Just like the way you said, you cannot educate an angry person that don't overfish. And not that an angry person, a person who depends on fishing as
And fish,
the
yeah.
means of living. The
Yeah.
only way you can help this person is giving this person an alternative that rely on the aquaculture. Instead of you going directly into fishing, start farming your fish inside the same lake or the same ocean that used to go to overfish.
Mm,
And this person will ask you, aquaculture is not paying. You'll say it's now paying. It was not paying because you couldn't afford to buy the feed and you didn't have enough fingerlings. You didn't have means to measure the quality of water. Now you have all these resources. Now start
yeah.
farming yourself. Start farming the fish that you need and allow the fish on the oceans and the lakes to regenerate. But that's just
Mm,
one thing. The other thing that we do to help, because more than 20 million metric tons that of the fish that are coming out of the freshwater oceans is normally ending up into the production of animal feed, like
mm,
animal feed industry, fish feed, poultry feed, livestock feed have depending so much on the fish
sure.
meal as their main source of protein ingredients. So the other
Mm,
alternative and a better way to stop this is by giving these people alternative. You can't just tell people to shut their industries and stop doing
yeah.
their production
Yeah.
because they are overfishing. Tell them, I have an alternative protein for you, and it's doing amazing, just like the fish meal, and they will stop overfishing. And that's
Sure.
what we are trying to do.
And you've led me to my next question. Not only is your solution affordable but and sustainable, but how does it compare? How does your protein feed compare to traditional fish meal? One, in terms of the cost, in terms of the impact on the farmers, and just environmentally. How does yours compare?
So compared to other available protein sources,
Yeah.
our protein is 30% much affordable. But also
Sure.
when it comes to the environment, it's having a positive impact on the environment. It's emitting less greenhouse gases emission. It's using less energy, less water, less resources, and it's produced
Mm,
vertically. That is compared to other protein sources that are available. That's the opposite of of its definition. So with this single cell protein, when it comes to the environmental impact, most of the time I say, it doesn't make sense environmentally if you have
mm,
to take the fish out of the freshwater sources and use it to farm the fish. Even
yeah.
economically, it doesn't make sense. The only better way we can do is to use, if we want to produce more fish, it's not by taking the fish and use it as a food for another fish. It's by investing on the aquaculture and find out an
Mm,
alternative for the fish meal and use it
alternative
to grow
protein.
more fish so that we can
Yeah.
have more fish by producing more fish ourselves, not by taking another fish and using it as a food so that you can grow another fish. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So that makes sense.
Mhm.
I actually think of the cycle when I mean I didn't do biology, but in I think in primary school, we used to do the cycle of life. And now thinking about it, the way things are happening, it doesn't make sense. How can a fish eat a fish to produce another fish? The cycle
Yes,
actually has the cycle has to make sense. And like you said, that's why we're getting sick. That's why we've got so many environmental and health issues. It's because
problems.
we've broken the cycle and we're creating our own
Yes,
man-made and unnatural
mhm,
cycle that in a few
true.
years, not even now, it's already affecting us. In a few years time, even more so I think it's so important to talk about the natural and alternative cycle of doing things. So I found out that your feed floats, and I've been trying to paint a picture of this. I don't have a big understanding of aquaculture. This reduces feed loss. How does that impact? Firstly, can you explain what that means, and how does this impact fish farming?
So for tilapia fish, normally tilapia eat on top of the water.
Okay.
But in some places, because if the wind is heavy, they normally just to throw a food that doesn't float, and tilapia will eat it down on the floor.
Okay.
So, for example, Egypt, when the wind is too heavy, most of the time the farmers consider to just feeding their tilapia fish with a feed that's not floating. But the only problem with the feed that is not floating, it is difficulty to know if you have thrown enough food and
Mm,
if the fish have eaten all the food. And the only bad thing about the fish not finishing that food is that the food will go and sink on the floor of the pond, and it
yeah.
will start after some few days it will start rotting. If it's rot, it will
Mm,
produce the what we call fungus or other pathogenic microbes that might turn out and infect the fish. And you will only recognize that when you start to see your fish are floating on top of
dying.
water, meaning they are
Sure.
gone. So it's
Yeah.
normally advised that you give the fish the food that is floating. For
Mm,
example, if you are the one feeding the fish, when you throw the food to them, they will eat until they reach a point where it's we call it maximum saturation point, where they have eaten enough and doesn't need any more food. So you will just made up your mind that this is enough for them, so I don't have to throw more food. The one that remain few that is floating on top of water, some fish will come back and take it. So even if there is just a few that will sink down, it may not have a it may not pose a very big problem to the fish.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we consider giving fish the floating feed.
The
But
floating
so
feed. No.
it also help you not to waste a lot of the food, because you just throw it until you see no they are not coming up anymore, so this sounds like it's enough for them. Yeah.
And my last
Yeah.
question for you is, what has focusing on impact and impacting lives and impacting the environment changed about you? How has it impacted your own personal life?
Mm, it has impacted my own personal life in a several ways. I now see the world in a very different perspective. Initially, I
Yeah.
thought you can just do any business. But
Mm,
nowadays, every time I'm thinking of a new idea, I'm thinking of how it will have a positive impact on this world.
sure.
So I don't want, I depend my, and this journey has helped me to deepen my understanding of the climate change, and even more how each one of us has a part to play to make sure
Mm,
that it's a safe world, not just for us, but for the future generations
the
to come.
future.
So
Yeah.
nowadays, I live with very curiosity that I don't want to be I don't want to be part of the people or part of the group that the future generation will one day sit and say, I wish our mothers did this for us to be
Mm,
safe. I wish they did this. I just want to be part of the change. If there is anything that I can do that can help protect the world, protect the environment, protect our natural water resources, and it's in my ability, I think
yeah. You
I
can do
will
it.
go for that, because I'm
Yeah.
now thinking more of this world in few years to come, even when I'm not here but my kids are
Mm.
here or my grandkids are here. So it has really changed me a lot, a lot.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I think the work that you're doing is incredible. And my little understanding of aquaculture industry has been quite interesting. And to see you own that space with so much conviction is really exciting. And yeah, I know you are excited. You just had a baby, I believe, and you're excited to teach her in the future. And yeah, I think for anyone who's interested, they should go and visit your website to find out more about what's happening. Because I think a lot of,
Yeah.
like you said, 70% of your country depends on farming. So that tells a whole lot on how much we should focus on sustainability. Because, like you said, we might be gone tomorrow, but we have kids who still have to live here. And
Yeah.
we're already feeling the effects of global warming from decisions that were made 10 years ago. So, can you imagine if we don't change things now, what's going to happen for our children? But I'm so glad we have people like you who are taking a step, who are a voice of change. And I wish you all the best in NovFeed and everything else you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dia. It was not nice to have these conversations with you.
Thank you. Take care.